I never thought I'd die for a joke. But there I was, standing in the command chamber of the Kithrin war cruiser Valence, staring down the barrel of what the uzaylı kadın called a plasma disruptor, and she was smiling. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile you give someone right before you erase them from existence. "You betrayed us," she said. Her voice was steady, cold, the kind of cold that comes from someone who's executed people before and felt nothing afterward. "My name is Marcus Holt. I'm 32 years old, and up until 3 seconds ago, I thought I was a liaison officer assigned to humanity's first joint military operation with the Kithrin Coalition. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. Commander Salith, I don't know what you're talking about." My voice cracked. I hated that. I wanted to sound confident, but when 6 armed guards surround you and their weapons start humming with lethal charge, confidence becomes a luxury you can't afford. She stepped closer. Salith. That was her name. I'd known her for 8 months, trained beside her, shared rations during long patrol cycles, argued over tactical doctrine. She'd even laughed at one of my terrible jokes about Earth cuisine. And now she looked at me like I was something she needed to scrape off her boot. "The intel drop," she said. 47 minutes ago. Encrypted burst transmission from this ship to hegemony space. Your biometric signature all over it. That's impossible. Is it?" She tilted her head. Her species looked almost human, except for the faint, iridescent scales that traced the edges of her jawline and the way her eyes reflected light like a cat's. Right now, those eyes were reflecting nothing but certainty. "Our security AI doesn't make mistakes, Marcus." The guards tightened their formation. One of them, a younger soldier named Karoth, wouldn't meet my eyes. We'd sparred together last week. He'd shown me a picture of his bonded mate and their hatchlings. Now he was ready to watch me die. "Commander, listen to me." I kept my hands visible, palms out. Diplomatic training 101. "I didn't send anything. Someone set me up." "Of course you'd say that." Sally's hand drifted to her sidearm, not the disruptor, something smaller, personal. The weapon she'd carried through 3 campaigns before humanity even knew her species existed. The data includes fleet positions, jump coordinates, weaknesses in our defensive grid, everything the hegemony needs to shatter this alliance before it even begins. My heart was slamming against my ribs. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I'd spent my entire career building bridges between species. I'd volunteered for this assignment. Left behind everything I knew on Earth because I believed in what we were trying to accomplish. "Salith, please." "You know me, I thought I did." Her expression didn't change. "That's what makes this hurt." The word hung in the air between us. Hurt. For a moment something flickered across her face, something that looked almost like regret. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask of command. "Ihanet," she said quietly. The Kithrin word for betrayal. It sounded worse in her language, heavier, like it carried the weight of 1,000 broken promises. "That's what this is. And you know what we do to traitors." The guards raised their weapons. This was it. This was how it ended, not in glorious combat, not saving lives or making a difference. Just standing in a metal room, accused of something I didn't do, about to be vaporized by people I thought were my friends. "Any last words?" Salith asked. "Yeah." My voice was steadier now. Funny how clarity comes when you've got nothing left to lose. When you figure out who really did this, tell them I hope it was worth it. She stared at me for a long moment. The weapon in her hand hummed, charging up. The sound filled the chamber. My life didn't flash before my eyes. I just thought about my sister back on Earth and how I'd never get to tell her she was right about me being too trusting. Sally's finger moved toward the trigger. And then she started laughing. Not a polite chuckle. A full, genuine laugh that echoed off the walls and made the guards exchange confused glances. She lowered the weapon, holstered it, and wiped her eyes. "Just kidding," she said. "Now it's war." I stared at her. My brain refused to process what just happened. What? The betrayal, the execution, all theater. She waved a hand at the guards, who immediately relaxed and lowered their weapons. Karoth actually grinned at me. We needed to see how you'd react under extreme stress. Whether you'd break, try to run, bargain, you passed. Passed. I repeated the word like it was in a foreign language. This was a test. A necessary one. Sally's expression shifted back to professional focus. 3 hours ago, we intercepted hegemony communications. They're launching a full-scale assault on this sector. 7 battle groups. Estimated arrival in 90 minutes. We needed to know if our human liaison would hold the line when things got bad. My legs felt weak. I wanted to sit down, maybe throw up, definitely punch something. You couldn't have just asked. Words are cheap. She touched my shoulder briefly, a gesture of apology maybe, or respect. I needed to see your core, the part that doesn't lie. You stood there ready to die rather than admit to something you didn't do. That's the kind of integrity we need in what's coming. The chamber's alarm system erupted in a cascade of warning tones. Red light flooded the space, turning everything the color of blood. Contact! Someone shouted from the bridge. Multiple hegemony signatures dropping out of jump space. They're early. Salith cursed in Kithrin. It sounded poetic and vicious at the same time. They accelerated their timeline, probably detected our intel intercept. She grabbed a tactical headset from a nearby console and tossed it to me. You wanted to prove yourself. Here's your chance. Get to auxiliary command and coordinate the human contingent. I need every ship we have in defensive formation 5 minutes ago. I caught the headset. My hands were still shaking from the adrenaline crash, but training took over. What about you? I'm going where the fighting's thickest. She was already moving toward the exit, her guards falling in behind her. Try not to actually betray us this time. She flashed me that same dangerous smile. Not funny, I called after her. Little bit funny, she shouted back. Then she was gone, and I was alone in the command chamber with blaring alarms and the sick feeling that I'd just been played by someone who might also be the most interesting person I'd ever met. No time to process. I activated the headset and sprinted toward auxiliary command. The corridors of the Valence were chaos. Crew members rushed to battle stations. Bulkheads sealed with pneumatic hisses. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated as power rerouted to defensive systems. I drilled for this scenario 100 times, but drills never included the metallic taste of fear in your mouth, or the way your vision sharpens when death becomes real. Auxiliary command was a circular room buried deep in the cruiser's armored core. 12 stations, each monitoring different aspects of fleet coordination. When I burst through the door, the human contingent was already there. 43 people, officers and specialists from 6 different Earth nations, all wearing the blue and silver of the combined fleet. Captain Alina Reeves looked up from a holographic display. Holt, heard you got executed. Glad that didn't stick. News travels fast. I moved to the central coordination platform. What's our status? Bad and getting worse. She pulled up a tactical overview. Space around us was filling with red icons. Hegemony warships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in precise formations. They've got us outnumbered 3-1. Our Kithrin allies are forming up, but their response time is compromised. Someone hit their deployment algorithms with a logic virus right before the attack started. Sabotage. What else? Alina's jaw was tight. We've got 17 human ships ready for combat. The rest are still spinning up their jump drives. If the hegemony pushes hard in the next 20 minutes, we're going to lose half our fleet before they even fire a shot. I studied the display. The hegemony formation was elegant and brutal. A hammer and anvil strategy, with heavy battleships forming the hammer and fast attack wings sweeping around to cut off retreat. Classic military doctrine. Almost too classic. They're showing us exactly what they're doing, I said. Alina frowned. Meaning it's bait. They want us to commit everything to meeting that formation head-on. I highlighted a section of empty space to our flank. But look here. This gap in their coverage, it's too convenient. I bet they've got stealth ships waiting to hit us from behind once we're engaged. That's a hell of an assumption. It's what I do. I opened a channel to Sally's command frequency. "Commander, you seeing this?" Her voice came back immediately, tight with focus. "The gap? Yes. Already deploying scout drones. Marcus, if you're right about stealth ships, we need to reallocate point defense now or we're looking at catastrophic losses. Give me operational authority over human combat wings 3 through 7. I'll set up a defensive screen." A pause. In that silence, I could almost feel her calculating, weighing trust against risk. We'd trained together, yes. But battlefield command was different. This was where mistakes killed thousands. "Granted," she said. "Don't make me regret not shooting you earlier." I grinned despite everything. "I'll try." The next 15 minutes were controlled chaos. I divided our combat wings into 3 groups. The first reinforced the main Keithran line, adding our ship's powerful long-range missiles to their energy weapons. The second group created a layered point defense network protecting our carrier vessels. The third I held in reserve, positioned to respond to threats from that suspicious gap. Elena coordinated the actual ship movements while I watched the overall flow of battle. It was like conducting an orchestra where every wrong note exploded in a fireball of superheated plasma. The hegemony advanced. Their hammer formation accelerated, massive dreadnoughts leading the way. Their anvil wings spread wider, trying to envelop our flanks. Everything about it screamed frontal assault. "Contacts." The sensor officer's voice cracked. "Multiple stealth signatures decloaking in Sector 77, right where you predicted." On the display, 12 new red icons appeared in that suspicious gap. Not full battleships, something worse. Corvettes. Fast, agile, bristling with torpedoes designed to shred capital ships. "Reserve wing, execute intercept pattern Delta," I ordered. "All point defense batteries, prioritize incoming torpedoes. Someone get me a firing solution on those corvettes before they launch." Our ships moved. 7 destroyers and 3 frigates, wheeling into position with the kind of precision that came from endless drills and crews who trusted their training more than their fear. The hegemony corvettes fired. Torpedoes streaked across the tactical display like angry hornets. Point defense turrets spun up, filling space with a wall of accelerated tungsten and coherent light. Torpedoes detonated in brilliant flashes. But not all of them. 3 got through. One caught the destroyer Tsunami on her flank, tearing through armor and venting atmosphere. She spun, wounded but functional. The other 2 torpedoes missed, their targeting fouled by Keithran electronic warfare. "Return fire," I said. Our ship spoke. Missiles and railgun rounds crossing the distance in seconds. The hegemony corvettes tried to scatter, their stealth systems flickering back on. Too slow. 2 exploded outright. 3 more took critical damage and began drifting, their drives dead. "Sector 77 secure," Elena reported. "But the main formation is closing fast. First contact in 90 seconds. I switched to fleet-wide command frequency. "All ships, remember your training. Stay in formation. Watch your spacing. Keithran ships have stronger shields but slower maneuverability. Human ships are faster but more fragile. We cover each other's weaknesses, that's why we're here." Sally's voice cut in. "Well said, liaison. Keithran First Fleet forward screen, weapons free. Let's show them what ihanet really looks like." The main fleets collided. Space lit up. Energy weapons carved glowing lines across the darkness. Missiles and torpedoes wove between ships like schools of mechanical fish. Explosions bloomed and faded. On the tactical display, it was abstract, almost beautiful. Icons moving and dying with calm precision. But I'd seen combat footage. I knew what it really looked like. The way a breached hull spilled crew into vacuum. The way metal screamed when it tore. The way people died in milliseconds or hours depending on how unlucky they were. "Damage reports coming in," Elena said. "Keithran cruiser Defiant took heavy fire. Shields down to 30%. Human destroyer Soul lost main power. She's drifting. Root Soul's crew to emergency pods. Get a recovery ship on it. How's the Valence? Sally's keeping her in the thick of it. She's drawing fire away from our weaker ships. Alina shook her head with something like admiration. That woman is either brilliant or suicidal. Both, I muttered. Definitely both. The battle evolved. What started as formation fighting devolved into a brutal knife fight as ships interpenetrated the engagement zone. The hegemony's numerical advantage meant they could afford losses we couldn't. But we were fighting on our terms now, in close where their long-range weapons lost effectiveness, and our point defense could handle their torpedo volleys. Marcus. Sally's voice urgent. I've got a problem. 3 hegemony cruisers broke through our line. They're burning hard for the civilian evacuation convoy. I can't disengage to intercept without collapsing this flank. My stomach dropped. The evacuation convoy. 200,000 refugees from the outer colonies fleeing ahead of the hegemony advance. Unarmed transport ships packed with families. Children. The entire reason we were holding this sector instead of retreating to more defensible positions. I see them. The 3 red icons were accelerating, their trajectories clear and merciless. They'd reach the convoy in 8 minutes. Alina, what do we have that can intercept? She was already calculating. Nothing that'll get there in time. Our fastest ships are engaged or too far out of position. Then we make something. I pulled up the reserve list. Every ship we had left. Most were damaged or low on munitions. Then I saw it. The Shanghai. An older destroyer with experimental jump drives. Supposed to be twice as fast as standard, but the technology was still unstable. 50-50 chance the ship would tear itself apart if they pushed it too hard. I opened a direct channel. Destroyer Shanghai, this is auxiliary command. I need you to jump ahead of those cruisers and buy time for the convoy to escape. A woman's voice came back, calm despite the chaos. Commander, our jump drives are in experimental status. Engineering says there's a significant risk of catastrophic failure. I know, I'm asking anyway. Silence. Then, understood. Spooling drives now, Shanghai out. On the tactical display, the destroyer's icon flickered as her experimental drives charged. Space bent around her. Reality folded. And then she was gone, translating across 30 million kilometers in an eye blink. She reappeared directly in the path of the hegemony cruisers. 1 ship against 3. It should have been a slaughter, but the Shanghai didn't try to win. She just had to slow them down. Her crew dumped everything they had into the void. Missiles, railgun rounds, even her shuttle craft packed with explosives and set on autopilot. The hegemony cruisers scattered, their formation disrupted. Return fire hammered the Shanghai. Her shields collapsed, armor boiled away, but she'd bought time. Convoy is jumping, Alina reported. They're clear. The Shanghai exploded 3 seconds later. A brief star born and dying in the space between breaths. 47 crew members gone. I'd sent them there, sent them to die. Marcus. Sally's voice pulled me back. The hegemony flagship is moving. Command ship. If we can take her out, their coordination falls apart. I forced myself to focus. Grief later, survival now. Where? She fed me the coordinates, a massive dreadnought hanging back behind the main fighting. Protected by layers of screening ships and point defense. Getting to her would mean running a gauntlet that would shred anything we sent. We need something they won't expect, I said. I'm open to suggestions. An idea formed. Terrible and possibly brilliant. The Valence. She's tough enough to tank the incoming fire if we reroute all power to forward shields. We make a direct run at the flagship, draw their attention, make them commit everything to stopping us. And then our combined fleet hits them from every other angle while they're focused on us. Classic misdirection, but it'll be rough. Your ship is going to take a beating. Marcus, that's not just a beating, that's a death ride. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. You're describing a suicide run. I know. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, there was something different in her tone, something softer. "You do this with me. I'm in auxiliary command. I'd be coordinating the attack, not—" "No," she cut me off. "If we're doing this, you're on my bridge. I want you there." My mouth went dry. "Salith, that's an order, liaison. Get up here. We've got savash to finish." I ran. The corridors were worse now. Damage control teams fought fires. Medical personnel rushed wounded to the infirmary. The ship shuddered under weapons impacts, and twice I had to grab a bulkhead to keep from falling. The bridge was a cathedral of controlled chaos. Crew members worked their stations with intense focus. Holographic displays showed the battle from every angle, and at the center of it all stood Salith, looking like she'd been born for this exact moment. She glanced at me as I entered. "Took your time. Wanted to make sure I looked good for the death ride." I moved to the liaison station beside her command chair. "You really want to do this? I really want to win." She addressed her bridge crew. "Helm, plot a course directly toward the hegemony flagship. Maximum acceleration. Engineering, reroute all non-essential power to forward shields and weapons. Communications, inform the fleet of our attack. They have 4 minutes to get into position." "Commander." Her executive officer, a grizzled veteran named Thrace, looked concerned. "We'll be exposed on every other facing. One lucky shot to our drive section and we're dead in space. Then let's not get unlucky." Salith smiled that dangerous smile. "Besides, I've got a good feeling about this. Anyone else want to voice concerns before we do something colossally stupid?" Silence. Then someone laughed. Someone else joined in. Within seconds, the whole bridge crew was grinning like maniacs. "That's what I thought," Salith said. "Helm, execute." The Valence surged forward. It was like riding a missile. The inertial dampeners couldn't quite compensate for the acceleration. I felt myself pressed back into the seat, watching the tactical display as we carved through the hegemony fleet. Ships moved to intercept. Weapons fire converged on our position. The forward shields blazed white-hot as energy weapons hammered them. "Shield strength at 75%, someone called out. "Return fire, all batteries." Salith stood, gripping the rail in front of her command chair. "Target their screening ships, clear a path." Our weapons spoke. The Valence was a purpose-built warship, bristling with enough firepower to level a small moon. At this range, every shot counted. A hegemony destroyer exploded. A frigate lost her drive section and spun away. A light cruiser's shields collapsed and our follow-up salvo tore her open. Shields at 50%. Keep going. More impacts, the ship shook. Warning lights cascaded across the bridge displays. Someone's station exploded in a shower of sparks. A damage control team rushed to seal a breach. Shields at 30%. Weapons status. Main batteries still operational. Missile tubes 4 and 7 offline. We're burning through ammunition fast. Then make the shots count. We were close now. The hegemony flagship filled the view screen. A monster of a ship, twice our size and covered in weapon blisters. She was turning to bring her main guns to bear. If she got a clean shot at us, shields or no shields, we were finished. "All ships," Salith said into the fleet channel. Now, they came from every direction. Kithran and human ships, abandoning their defensive positions and converging on the flagship. The hegemony fleet tried to respond, but they were out of position, their coordination disrupted by our sudden attack. For a handful of crucial seconds, their flagship was exposed. We hit her with everything we had left. Missiles, railgun fire, energy weapons, torpedoes, kinetic impactors. The combined firepower of a dozen ships focused on a single target. The flagship's shields flared and held, then flickered, then shattered like glass. "Target her command section," Salith said. The main batteries fired. 3 rounds, each carrying enough kinetic energy to punch through a small moon. They hit in sequence. The flagship's armor crumpled. Secondary explosions rippled across her hull. Her power signature spiked and died. "She's dead in space," Thrace reported. Catastrophic damage to her command deck and primary systems. The hegemony fleet wavered. Without their command ship coordinating the attack, individual captains had to make their own decisions. Some tried to continue fighting. Others broke off, retreating toward the jump zone. The cohesive assault dissolved into chaos. "Fleet-wide," Salith said. "Press the attack. Don't let them regroup." What followed was less a battle and more a rout. Our combined forces pursued the retreating hegemony ships, destroying or crippling anything that didn't jump away fast enough. Within 20 minutes, the engagement was over. Space around us was filled with debris and drifting hulks, but we'd held the line. "All ships, stand down to alert status," Salith ordered. "Begin rescue operations for survivors, theirs and ours. Medical teams to priority casualties. Engineering, damage assessment. Communications, casualty reports." She sagged slightly, the adrenaline finally wearing off. I realized I was shaking. We'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, we'd won. "Commander," her executive officer approached. "Preliminary casualty counts are coming in. We lost 9 ships, heavy damage to 14 more. Estimated casualties, 4,300 across the combined fleet. 4,000 people, the Shanghai's crew, others I'd never know. People who'd trusted their commanders to make the right calls. People who wouldn't be going home." Salith's expression was carved from stone. "Compile the full list. I want every name. We honor our dead properly." "Yes, Commander." She turned to me. "Walk with me." We left the bridge and headed toward the observation deck, a small space with actual windows looking out into real space instead of displays. The battle debris drifted past, catching starlight. "You did well today," Salith said quietly. "So did you. That death ride was inspired leadership or complete insanity. Can it be both?" She almost smiled. Then the expression faded. "I owe you an apology. The test earlier. The mock execution. It was cruel. It worked, though. I'd probably be useless right now if I hadn't already burned through my fear during your little performance. Probably." She leaned against the window, her reflection ghostly in the armored glass. "But that doesn't make it right. You deserved better. You've earned better." I moved to stand beside her. "Why did you really do it? The test. There are 100 ways to evaluate someone under pressure. Why specifically the betrayal scenario?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because that's what I fear most. Not death, not defeat. Ihanet, betrayal. Someone I trust turning out to be someone else entirely." She glanced at me. "My species has a saying. Trust is a blade that cuts both ways. Wield it carefully or bleed." I needed to know which way your blade cuts. "And you stood there ready to die for your integrity. That's the sharpest blade I know." We stood in silence, watching the stars. The tension from earlier, the near execution, the desperate battle, the impossible victory, all of it hung between us. But there was something else too, something that had been building for months. Respect that had deepened into something more complicated. "Marcus." She said my name carefully. "When this is over, when the savash ends and we're not constantly trying not to die, I'd like to, that is, I think we should." She trailed off. I'd never seen her uncertain before. It was oddly endearing on someone who just orchestrated a suicidal charge through an enemy fleet. "Are you asking me on a date, Commander?" "I'm asking if you'd be interested in exploring whether this," she gestured vaguely between us, "could be something more than professional respect, in a context where I'm not threatening to execute you." I laughed, couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. The uzaylı kadın who'd put a gun to my head was now awkwardly trying to ask me out. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I'd like that." She smiled. A real smile this time, not dangerous, not cold, just genuine. "Good, although I should warn you I'm terrible at dating. All my relationships end with someone getting court-martialed. I'll take my chances." An alert chimed. The moment shattered, pulled back into duty. Salith checked her command interface. "Distress signal from the outer mining colonies. Looks like the hegemony had a second wave ready to go. They're hitting civilian targets while we're recovering from the fleet engagement." How long until we can respond? Too long. We need at least 3 hours to repair critical systems. Frustration edged her voice. They knew we'd win. This whole attack was about depleting our ability to defend the colonies. Then we get creative. I pulled up a tactical display. We don't have enough ships to stop them directly, but we can make them think we do. Fake transmissions, spoofed sensor signatures, make them believe we're in position to intercept when we're really not. Buy time for the colonies to evacuate. She studied the plan. That's deception, mizah in a way, making them see what isn't there. War is half theater anyway, might as well use it. Do it. She turned toward the bridge. And Marcus. After this, after we save those colonies and I fill out 10,000 casualty reports and attend memorials for people I sent to die, after all that. She looked back. You're buying the first round. Deal. Although I should warn you, human alcohol and Kithran physiology might not mix well. More danger. Perfect. She left. I stayed at the observation window a moment longer, looking at the wreckage floating past. The cost of victory, written in shattered hulls and drifting debris. 4,000 names I'd read. 4,000 people I'd remember, but we'd held. We'd survived. And tomorrow we'd do it again. My communicator buzzed. Elena's voice. Marcus, stop staring dramatically out windows and get back to auxiliary command. We've got work to do. On my way. I took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there the hegemony was regrouping, planning their next move. This war was far from over, but today we'd proven something important. Humans and Kithrans fighting together. Different species with different tactics and different values, finding common ground when it mattered most. The observation deck door hissed open behind me. I turned, expecting another crew member. It was Salith. She'd come back. Forgot something? I asked. Yes. She crossed the space between us in 3 strides, kissed me. Quick and fierce and certain, then stepped back. Now I didn't. She left again before I could respond. I stood there probably looking like an idiot, definitely feeling like one. My communicator buzzed again. Marcus, seriously, command now. Yeah. I touched my lips, still feeling the ghost of that kiss. Coming. I headed toward auxiliary command, a smile pulling at my face despite the exhaustion and the grief and the knowledge that tomorrow would bring more fighting. More impossible decisions. More people looking to me for answers I didn't have. But for right now, in this moment, I allowed myself to feel something other than fear. 3 months later, Salith and I stood on the deck of the restructured combined fleet headquarters. The war had escalated. More battles, more losses, but also more victories. The alliance between humans and Kithrans was holding, strengthened by shared sacrifice. You know they're going to make you do this again, Salith said, reviewing the latest tactical briefings. The mock execution test. It's become standard protocol for all human liaisons now. Great. I'll be famous for being fake executed. Better than being famous for actual execution. Fair point. We'd fallen into an easy rhythm. Professional during operations. Something more when we could steal moments between crises. She'd been right about being terrible at dating. Our first attempt at dinner together had been interrupted by 3 separate tactical alerts. The second time, her executive officer had walked in on us kissing and spent the next week making jokes. The third time actually went well, which meant we both spent the whole evening waiting for disaster. Marcus. She set down the briefing pad. I need to tell you something. Her tone made me nervous. That sounds ominous. The Council wants to expand the liaison program. Full integration of human officers into Kithran command structures. They've asked me to recommend a candidate for the first joint task force. That's good, right? Shows they trust the alliance. I recommended you. I blinked. What? Joint task force commander. You'd work directly with our high command. Coordinate fleet operations across multiple sectors. It's a massive responsibility. Potentially career-defining. She met my eyes. It would also mean leaving the Valence, leaving this unit, leaving us, at least for the duration of the assignment. My chest tightened. We just figured out what we were to each other. Now the universe was pulling us apart. How long? I asked. Minimum 2 years, could be longer depending on how the savash develops. Did you tell them no? I told them yes, because you're the right person for this. Because the Alliance needs your skills, because you're good at what you do and holding you back would be selfish. Her jaw tightened, but I hate it for the record. I wanted to argue, to say I'd turn it down, stay here, stay with her. But she was right, this was bigger than us, bigger than what we wanted. When do I leave? I asked. 3 weeks after the ceremony. What ceremony? She smiled slightly. They're giving you a medal. Something about exceptional service and creative tactical thinking. I may have written the recommendation, possibly mentioned the death ride. Definitely mentioned your ability to stay calm when someone's pointing a gun at your head. You're never going to let that go, are you? Never. She stepped closer. Marcus, these next 2 years, we'll figure it out. Long distance isn't ideal, but I've survived worse. We both have. Yeah. I pulled her into a hug. She was taller than me by a few inches, stronger, but in this moment she felt perfectly balanced against me. Yeah, we will. 3 weeks passed too quickly. The medal ceremony was brief and formal. The High Command gave speeches about unity and sacrifice. They pinned a piece of metal to my uniform and shook my hand. It felt surreal. The goodbye was harder. Salith walked me to the shuttle bay. We didn't say much. What was there to say? Everything important had already been said. Don't die out there, she finally said as I reached the shuttle. Same to you. And Marcus. She caught my arm, pulled me close one more time. If you ever actually betray us, I will hunt you to the edge of the galaxy and make that mock execution real. I laughed, because of course she'd end on a death threat. It was very her. Noted. I'm serious. I know. I kissed her forehead. I know. The shuttle pulled away. Through the viewport, I watched the Valence shrink into just another ship among thousands. Watched Sally's figure until I couldn't see her anymore. 2 years. I could do 2 years. The war continued. The Joint Task Force deployment was everything Salith had predicted. Challenging, exhausting, vital. I coordinated operations across 12 sectors, worked with officers from 6 different species. Made decisions that affected millions of lives, and I thought about her every day. We communicated when we could, encrypted messages, occasional video calls. Once, when my task force passed through her patrol zone, we managed a brief dinner together. 4 hours stolen from duty. It wasn't enough. It was never enough, but we held on. The hegemony's advance stalled, turned back, began to crumble under the combined weight of the Alliance. Victory, when it finally came, was messy and incomplete. Wars never end cleanly, but the major fighting stopped. The treaty negotiations began. I was 22 months into my assignment when I got the message. Sally's ship had been damaged in one of the final engagements, not critically, but badly enough that they were pulling the Valence back for extended repairs, and she was requesting to see me. I pulled every string I had, called in favors, rearranged assignments. 3 days later, I stood in a shipyard orbiting a Kithrin colony world, watching the Valence limp into dock. She looked like hell. Scorch marks across her hull, armor plating missing in patches, but she was flying. Still operational. Salith met me on the station. She looked tired, older than I remembered, but her eyes lit up when she saw me. We didn't say anything. Just held each other in the middle of a busy corridor while crew members and dock workers flowed around us like water around stones. You came, she finally said. Of course I came. Your assignment you can't just abandon. I called it a tactical consultation, perfectly legitimate. I pulled back to look at her. Besides, I outrank you now. Joint Task Force Commander, that's a lot of shiny new insignia. Going to your head, absolutely. She laughed, that same genuine laugh from months ago. I missed you. I missed you too. We spent 3 days together, not enough. Never enough, but it was something. We talked, caught up, argued about tactical doctrine, kissed like teenagers when we thought no one was looking. And when it was time for me to leave again, it hurt less than before, because we'd survived. The separation, the distance, the uncertainty, and we'd come back to each other. 4 months later, my joint task force assignment ended. The alliance was stable. The command structures integrated. My job was done. I had a choice of postings. Fleet command, tactical analysis, advanced training. I could write my own ticket anywhere in human space. I chose liaison officer, assigned to the Valence. Salith was waiting when I came aboard. Her bridge crew was there too. They'd prepared a whole ceremony, speeches about honor and duty. It was touching and embarrassing in equal measure. When it was finally over, Salith pulled me aside. "You're sure about this?" she asked. "You could command your own ship now. Lead major operations. Instead, you're back to being a liaison on someone else's bridge." "I'm sure." I smiled. "Besides, someone needs to keep you from doing more death rides. That was one time. It was the defining moment of your command career." "Fair." She glanced around to make sure no one was close enough to overhear. "You know this won't be easy. Relationship plus command structure. There are regulations about fraternization. We'll figure it out. We've survived worse." "Yes." She took my hand, brief, subtle, but there. "Yes, we have." That night in her quarters, while the Valence glided through quiet space, she told me about the mock execution. The real reason behind it. "It wasn't just a test," she admitted. "I mean, it was, but it was also me being terrified of what I was feeling, of trusting someone that much. Ihanet, betrayal. I've been burned before. Had people I trusted turn into enemies. I needed to see your core, the real you, the part that doesn't lie." "And what did you see?" I asked. "Someone who'd die before compromising his integrity. Someone brave and stupid enough to stand there and take it when he thought I was going to kill him. Someone I could trust." She turned toward me. "Someone I could love." It was the first time either of us had said it. "I love you too," I said. "Even though you're terrible at asking people out. Even though our first real conversation involved you threatening to vaporize me. Even though you're probably going to do more death rides and I'll have to watch. It's all part of my charm." "It really isn't." She kissed me, long and slow and certain, and for once no alarms interrupted, no tactical alerts, no war demanding our attention, just us, just this moment. "You know," I said later, "that whole betrayal test, the mock execution, the just kidding moment, what about it? I think I actually forgive you for it now." She raised an eyebrow. "Now, not before." "Before, I understood it intellectually. Now I get it emotionally. You were protecting yourself, making sure before you let yourself be vulnerable." I traced a finger along the iridescent scales on her jaw. "I get it because I'd do the same thing. If I thought someone might hurt you, I'd tear apart the galaxy to stop them, even if it meant doing something cruel, even if it meant you'd hate me for it. I could never hate you." "You don't know that. I do." Her voice was absolutely certain. "Because I've seen your core, Marcus. The part that doesn't lie. You'd never betray the people you love, not for anything, not even to save yourself." She was right. And that understanding, that complete trust, was worth every terrifying moment of that fake execution. The years that followed were good ones. Not easy. War never really ends. There are always new threats, new challenges. But we faced them together. The uzaylı kadın who'd threatened to kill me and the human who'd stood there and let her. We became legends in our own way. The human-Kithrin command partnership that worked. The proof that the alliance could hold. Other ships started requesting mixed crews, more liaisons, more joint operations. And through it all, Salith kept making jokes about betrayal. Kept threatening mock executions for minor infractions. It became our thing. A callback to where we started. A reminder of how far we'd come. 10 years after that first terrifying day, we stood together on the bridge of the Valence, now refitted, upgraded, and still somehow in one piece despite Salith's aggressive command style, watching a new class of liaison officers cycle through their training exercises. "Think we should include a mock execution in their program?" she asked innocently. "Absolutely not." "Why? It worked on you. It traumatized me. You got over it." I did not get over it, I just developed Stockholm Syndrome. She laughed, that same dangerous laugh that had confused me so much the first time. Now it just made me smile. One of the new liaisons approached nervously. Human, young, maybe 25, reminded me of myself a decade ago. Eager and terrified. "Sir," he said, "permission to speak." "Granted. I just wanted to say your record, what you and Commander Salith have accomplished. It's inspiring. I'm honored to follow in your footsteps." I exchanged a glance with Salith. She had that look, the one that meant she was about to do something either brilliant or terrible. "Tell me," she said to the young liaison, "how do you feel about being held at gunpoint?" His face went white. "She's joking," I said quickly. "Mostly, probably." "Am I?" Salith's smile was absolutely wicked. The young officer looked between us, uncertain whether to laugh or run. "Definitely joking," I confirmed. "But maybe also a little serious. Welcome aboard, try not to commit any ihanet." He nodded quickly and fled back to his station. "You're terrible," I told Salith. "You love it." "I really don't." "Liar." She stepped closer, dropped her voice so only I could hear. "You know what I love about you? My stunning good looks. Besides that, you trusted me, even when I gave you every reason not to. Even when I held a gun to your head and accused you of betrayal. You trusted that there was a reason, a purpose. You believed in me when I wasn't sure I believed in myself." My throat tightened. "You made it easy. Once I got past the whole death threat thing. That's all I wanted from the beginning. Someone who could see past the threats to what was underneath. Someone brave enough to stand there and take it." She touched my hand briefly, a gesture invisible to anyone not watching closely. "Thank you for being that person. Thank you for not actually shooting me." Well, the day is young. We stood together on the bridge of the Valence, watching the stars drift past, and I thought about that terrifying moment 10 years ago. The mock execution, the betrayal accusation, the sudden laughter, the immediate pivot to savaş. It had been a test, a cruel one, but also necessary, because trust is a blade that cuts both ways. And sometimes you need to know, really know, which way someone's blade cuts before you let them close enough to hurt you. Salith had tested me, found me worthy, and then spent the next 10 years proving that I'd made the right choice trusting her. "You know," I said quietly, "if you ever did betray us, I'd forgive you." She looked at me sharply. "What?" "I'd be angry, hurt, but I'd forgive you because I know you'd have a reason, a good one. And I'd trust that reason even if I didn't understand it." For once, Salith had no response. She just stared at me, something complicated moving behind her eyes. Then she smiled. Not the dangerous smile, not the wicked one. The real smile, the one reserved for quiet moments when it was just us. "I will never betray you," she said. "Never, I promise. I know. But if I did, you won't." "But if I did," she continued, "it would probably start with me pointing a gun at your head and shouting about treason." I laughed. "Probably, and I'd stand there and take it, because we both know how this story ends." "How?" "With you saying just kidding. And then savaş." I met her eyes, always savaş, but at least we fight it together. She kissed me, right there on the bridge in front of everyone, let them see, let them know. This was who we were. The human and the uzaylı kadın. The accused and the accuser. The partnership that started with betrayal and became something unbreakable. When we finally pulled apart, her executive officer was making elaborate gagging gestures. Several crew members were grinning. One actually clapped before catching himself. "Back to work," Salith ordered, her commander's voice firmly in place. "We have patrol routes to run and no time for romantic comedy." The bridge crew returned to their stations, still smiling. I remained beside her command chair, my place, where I'd stood for 10 years, where I'd stand for as many more as the universe allowed. "I love you," I said quietly. "I know." She didn't look at me, kept her eyes on the tactical display, professional, but her hand found mine, squeezed once. "I love you too, even though you're terrible at following orders. I learned from the best. That's fair." Somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, threats were gathering. New wars on distant horizons. The hegemony had fallen, but there were always others. Always someone ready to tear down what we'd built. But for now, in this moment on this ship, we were safe. We were together, and we were ready for whatever came next, because that's what we did. That's who we were. The ones who stood firm, who trusted even when scared, who joked about betrayal because we knew it would never happen, who faced the savash together and came out the other side intact. "Commander," the communications officer called out. "Incoming distress signal from the outer colonies. Possible hostile contact." Sally stood. The moment was over. Back to duty, back to war. "Set course," she ordered. "Maximum acceleration. All hands to battle stations." I moved to my liaison station, pulled up tactical displays, began coordinating with Allied forces in the sector. The familiar routine, the comfortable dance of crisis management. "Just like old times," Sally said. "Which old times?" "The mock execution, the death ride. The time you almost got us all killed with that ridiculous flanking maneuver. All of it. Then yes, just like old times." She grinned, that dangerous grin that meant trouble was coming and she was ready for it. "Let's show them how it's done." The Valence surged forward into the dark, and I went with her, always with her, because she'd tested me once, found me true, and never doubted again. Because I'd stood there with a gun to my head and chosen trust over fear. Because sometimes the best relationships start with betrayal, or at least the threat of one. "You betrayed us," she'd shouted. "Just kidding," she'd said. "Now it's war," we'd said together, and we'd been saying it ever since.